I worked in private sector. I worked in academia. I worked in nonprofit. I worked in government.
Is there anything that makes a CV stand out to you? And also, what do you look for in a person when hiring?
Ooh, I don't know if I want to tell you my secrets.
Well, I've had, horrendous job interviews, and I've had good ones where the HR, I felt, was playing mind games. I don't know if this was just me.
You're not trying to intimidate the person, because the moment you intimidate someone, you don't get the honest answer. 73% of Saudis leave their jobs because of their managers, not because of the company itself. Time management is very important. Discipline, resilience, setting boundaries with other people. I don't know if I should say this, but entrepreneurship sometimes sounds sexy, and it's not. You need to be up for it. You need to be extremely passionate. You need to really, really genuinely want to solve a problem and add value. Because, sometimes people feel like they're missing out not being an entrepreneur. The key to performance and working at your best is not adding more pressure. It's adding more care. What's really sad is seeing burnout being rewarded. I got this advice very early on of building a network. Every job I got was not because I applied for it. It was because my network saw something, saw a potential, and recommended me.
Welcome back to Discussions. We're actually back in the Mashted space, and today we have a very, very special guest joining us. She is an investor. She's an advocate for youth. She's an advocate for education in Saudi Arabia, a pioneer in education in Saudi Arabia, not to mention a board member with over 20 years of experience in human capital development, both in the private and governmental sector. She wears so many titles, not to mention, most recently, she's the founder and CEO of Rumman Corporate Wellness, a boutique human-centric design firm focused on bringing well-being to the workplace. Joining me on this episode of Discussions is Maha Taibah. Maha, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. I'm very happy to be here.
I didn't even know how to do your introduction, but we were talking behind the scenes, mashallah alayki. You've done so much. You're truly an inspiration, and you still make time to advocate for well-being. You still make time to advocate for my generation, the youth generation, and I truly appreciate that.
I'm very honored to be here and very excited for today's conversation.
Yeah. Funny enough, we met the first time yesterday.
Yes.
A colleague of mine in journalism sent me your contact and said, you have to bring her on Discussions. When I immediately started researching, and I was blown away by the work you've been leading throughout your career, mashallah. And we met at the Fortune Most Powerful Women event yesterday, which is very fitting and for you to be there. Tell me, what was that experience like for you?
It was a very refreshing experience. I think having a global brand, this is the first time they actually do an event outside of New York. It was in Riyadh, bringing in international experts from all over the world. I was so proud of all the women that were speaking on behalf of Saudi, and then I got to network with a lot of amazing women as well. So it was one of those perfect events where you do want to stay every single minute of it. So I started from the very beginning of the event, and then I left the second day at the very last minute of the event. It was very well developed, very well curated, and it was great.
And I was saying, I had a session I was moderating. I was saying it truly speaks volumes to the success of Vision 2030 that Fortune chose their first Middle Eastern forum to be in Saudi Arabia, more specifically.
Yes.
I mean, 6-7 years ago, this wouldn't have been the case. Bringing those powerful women to Saudi, and look where we are now.
Yes. And something Princess Haifa bint Mohammed mentioned yesterday, the discussion was always, especially when I was working in government, there was so much effort to convince people outside that, we don't have the limitations that media projects on us. And she was saying that it's no longer about women can't, it's actually women did.
Yeah.
In the past tense in Saudi. And I think that was a nice short, summary of everything.
Exactly. I mean, during the session I had with Adwa Arifi, the Assistant Deputy Minister of Sports, we were saying that women aren't just catching up. We've excelled. We're actually leading in sports, leading across sectors. And you're a testament to that, mashallah, and we're seeing it. I want to jump back to give our audience members a better idea of who you are and your career. Before we started filming, I was saying that most entrepreneurs I know, most books I read about some of the leading businessmen and women, they started their careers in investment business way before their 20s, way before they received their bachelor's. Or when did you start your career as an entrepreneur?
I think this is a beautiful question, and it's a question that maybe we're talking about entrepreneurship, but it's actually more about your why and finding your why and understanding why you do what you do. And if we all go back to our childhood, we'll see clues about our why and why we're here. Because when you're a child, you're actually in your most natural, authentic state. And for me, it was more about art. It was more about creativity, innovation. It was more about connection with people. I always say I used to teach my dolls, not play with them. So I know since a very young age that there were things that caught my attention, and alhamdulillah, to an extent, I managed to stay true to that throughout my career. So back to entrepreneurship, I remember my childhood was started in Canada, so I would negotiate the best price to sell my bike in a garage sale, for example. When I was in high school, we would go to the US every summer. So I called my cousin from LA and I was telling her, let's do a summer camp for kids when I go back to Saudi. So I bought all the arts and crafts equipment and all like the paint. I would carry boxes from the US to Saudi to bring these very funky, cool things. And we did a summer camp and we made money. And we were very popular and did that in the summer because kids didn't have much to do. So they would come for 2 weeks. We'd have a full program and work with them. So that was probably my very first entrepreneurial experience. And then I went through so many others. And my first investment, for example, in the US stock market, started at a very young age. It was my first job. I was working in Kingdom schools and inspired by the owner of Kingdom Holdings, Prince Al-Walid bin Talal. I started to read Fortune magazine. I started to read all of these magazines that talk about investment. And I did my first investment in Priceline.com when I was probably 21 or something. Wow. I made good money, alhamdulillah, on that one.
I can imagine. We all know what it is now. As you're speaking, I couldn't help but smile because I saw so much overlap in your early beginnings and my early beginnings. So growing up, I would force all of my siblings to sit down in a circle and I would play teacher and thank God for them that they played along. Yeah. I would give them assignments. I would grade them. I was so harsh. And I was exactly. That happened. And then elementary school, I was making bracelets to sell. I would get little like gum and I would upsell it. It was gum from the store, but people were like, oh my gosh, this is colorful rainbow gum. And I would upsell it to everyone for like $5 a pack. And people were selling it. I got to the point where the principal called my mom. And I was doing this actively. Yeah. The first stock I ever bought, I was 17, and my brother, Damni, and he was so supportive. He made the Fidelity account in his name, and he was like, I'll give you $1,000. Learn. And I remember the first stock I invested in was in Simon Properties, the malls in the US. But then I lost money. I gained money, but it was an all experience. And funny enough, one of my first part-time jobs in Saudi when I came back was as an assistant kindergarten teacher.
Yeah, we'll talk about that now.
As you're speaking, I'm seeing so much overlap. Coincidentally, I don't mean to make it about me, but I look at you and I'm like, oh, this is so inspiring.
Yeah.
But it is those early beginnings that teach you how to be an entrepreneur, how to hustle, how to be a go-getter. It also teaches you perseverance, I imagine.
Definitely. Perseverance, resilience. And what's cool about all of these basic skills is not everybody has to be an entrepreneur, but then there is an entrepreneurial mindset. And even throughout my career, like my first company was started when I was خلاص, I almost finished يعني doing the at least 15 years of work as a employee, and then I started playing around with entrepreneurship as it is today, as it's known today. But I always wore the hat of an intrapreneur, where I would be inside an organization, working for that organization, but being innovative within. So creating ideas, delivering initiatives. I think throughout my career, one of the common threads is I always jump at greenfield opportunities. So my first job at Kingdom Schools as a kindergarten teacher, it was the first year they opened. So it was very greenfield. There was nothing there. We created a lot to actually open the doors for kids. When I worked in Sagia, we were working on economic cities and things that were unheard of at that time. And then everything after that, it was an initiative that I proposed. So being an intrapreneur, because, you know, sometimes people feel like they're missing out not being an entrepreneur, but you can be an intrapreneur within the work that you're actually at right now.
Exactly. I think there's something we can all do to make our surroundings better, whether it's the community of the staff that we work with.
Yes.
You know, I started doing something. I made a video on TikTok. I've yet to post it, but I will. I said that you can't always change your surroundings of where you are. It's a privilege to say, I'm going to get up and leave my job. I'm going to work here. Not everyone has that privilege financially, but we can make small changes here and there. For example, greeting everyone in the morning, you know, making the workplace a bit more positive. You know, it's those environments. I like that you said entrepreneur, looking within and seeing how we can better it. I think it's amazing. Let's start off with Rumman. I want to jump into it. I'm saying it right, Rumman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rumman. So it's a boutique human-centric design firm focused on bringing well-being to the workplace. I want to ask you, why is it important to you to bring well-being in the workplace?
Because I saw the cost of its absence. I felt the cost of its absence, and I paid the cost of its absence. I think, you know, the key to performance and working at your best is not adding more pressure. It's adding more care. And we have seen so many organizations, you know, optimize for output, optimize for KPIs, optimize for, you know, the outcome. But we are completely underinvested in the human operation system of the organization. You know, what matters the most in any company or any organization for it to succeed, it's people. And well-being, unfortunately, is understood wrong. I think for me, let me define well-being for myself. Well-being is really the ability to live to your full potential. It's the ability to manage stress when you're in a stressful situation. It's the ability to work productively and contribute to the community and to the society and to the country and to the world at large. So that's well-being. It's a very broad term. Unfortunately, right now, first of all, it's mixed with wellness. Mm-hmm. They use it interchangeably. I don't believe that,
like fitness.
Yeah. So it's well-being is not about a yoga mat, although I love yoga. But well-being is not about just that. It's much bigger, and there's so many domains of well-being. So, what I think needs to be reframed is that it's not a luxury. You know, it's not an afterthought. It's not the nice to have in an organization. It is actually the infrastructure for sustainable success. Mm-hmm. So we work with a lot of organizations, and what we try to explain is that any organization wants its people to work at peak performance. So you want the best out of them, you want them to deliver, you want them to be productive, you want them to make good decisions, you want them to be focused. So you want them to work at peak performance. But we all know that life happens. We all know that a lot of stress happens, you know, a lot of projects, parachuting, initiatives come from the sky. Things don't happen the way you want them to. Priorities compete, and you tend to dip into stress zone. Now, if you dip into stress zone, that's fine. You can stay there for a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 months even. But if you continue in stress zone for a very long time, you start to exhibit burnout symptoms. And that's like the third quadrant where you don't want to be. And with Rumman, we say we are the antioxidant to burnout. So if you're in stress, we want to move you to recovery as soon as possible. And when we say recovery zone, that doesn't mean that you take a vacation and go to the Maldives. That means you spend a few seconds breathing. That means you give yourself a 60-second reflection moment to understand your feelings. That means you take a walk. That means you connect on a deeper level with someone. That means you have an honest conversation with your manager about what you can and what you cannot do. So recovery doesn't have to consume a lot of time. And we believe in micro moments and moments of well-being, but it just has to be something that you're aware of, you know what to do. It's on your conscious level. You do it with intention.
So it's mostly, would you say it's mostly tools that
Yes.
you develop for these major companies, or is it more of physical spaces? Are there anything, for example, my question is, if someone's watching this at home and they have an office, or they're a CEO, or if they're a manager, are there spaces in their offices that they can create for well-being?
100%. Actually, with well-being, it's really about designing your day, designing your space, designing your time, even designing your thinking. It's all about design. So when you're in your office, does your office promote your well-being? What does that mean? Do you have enough water next to you to be hydrated? Because 1% drop in hydration causes problems with your brain, and you won't be able to think clearly. And so do you have, for example, water? Do you have enough sunlight? Do you have in your schedule enough time to take some breaks and have healthy food that can re-energize you? So it's really about sitting for maybe 1 hour in the beginning of the week, consciously designing your day. Do you have a morning routine? Do you have a night routine? It's really about design. And when your negative thoughts start to creep up on you and start to pull you down, do you have a strategy to get yourself out of it? So it's all about design.
But this emotional intelligent aspect is so important, because they don't teach us it in university. They don't teach us it in training when we start new careers. So we do get burned out. I mean, I was burned out 2 or 3 times previously, very intensely. And I know that everyone in their career eventually faces burnout. So it's unfortunate we don't teach this.
Yes. And you know, what's really sad is seeing burnout being rewarded. So the more you work, the more you get rewarded, but you're not looked at in maybe a positive manner if you say no to something because you can't do it, or taking some time off for yourself, or leaving early from the office because you have something else that you need to do. And, you know, they talk a lot about work-life balance. For me, I don't think there's such a thing as work-life balance. I think it's more about work-life integration. We are us. You know, you are a person that shows up at work, but you're the same person that shows up at home.
Yep.
And it's very difficult to put a clear-cut line between work and life. It's very much integrated. And with that integration comes a certain set of skills that you need to learn to manage this integration. So time management is very important, discipline, resilience, setting boundaries with other people. All of these are different skills that you need to learn to be able to make this a harmonious integration between what you do at work and the rest of your life.
I think this is going to be a therapy / advisory session for me. So I've always, I always get DMs or questions when I post on LinkedIn, whether it's college students or interns that say, I want to do what you're doing. I want to follow in your footsteps. I know I'm fairly still young, but they still message me that. And I don't know how to advise them because I think to myself, you don't want this. Genuinely, like, this isn't normal. This isn't healthy. For me, I don't have work-life balance. Alhamdulillah, I'm blessed because I genuinely have a passion for what I do, where my career has become my life. And I don't know if that's healthy in your sector, but for me, it's encompassed who I am. Like you said, there's no difference between office lama and home lama. I'm pretty much the same person. I eat, sleep, breathe media and journalism. Is that healthy from your perspective?
So I would want to say that I don't think it's about being healthy, or like if it's healthy or if it's not healthy. I think it's more about how you're feeling. It's a really, really personal journey. And you know, just a caveat here, you know, it's or a disclaimer. You can be so engaged in work and so passionate, and like I love what I do. Ever since I started working, there's no job that I did that I didn't love, and I was so passionate about it. And I was working 24/7. You know, I would answer emails at 2 a.m. in the morning. So I was extremely passionate. So being passionate does not prevent burnout. This is very important, because if you're passionate about something, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get burnout, because burnout works on so many different elements, and passion is just one of them. So you just need to be conscious about your recovery moments. So being yourself at work and being yourself at home, I think this is very healthy, because you're being authentic wherever you go. And not a lot of people are authentic wherever they go. You can see someone at work and then you see them like an hour later in a coffee shop, and they're a completely different personality, and you're wondering what's going on there. So being authentic is very healthy. Now, do you carve out intentionally moments where you recover? That's the question.
That's a good question.
That's the question. And again, it's not something that will drain you. It's not something that is hard work. It's not something, as long as you design your day, you design your moments, you'll be able to do it, and be very successful at it. Recovery, I mean.
Yeah. I know I'm going very like off topic with these questions, but I want to pick your brain. I saw the Diary of a CEO podcast. I saw an episode where Stephen Butler interviewed the co-founder of Skims, excuse me. And she was saying that she doesn't believe in work-life balance, that if you're in your 20s, early 30s, keep your head down and work, make career your entire life, and just hustle, because that's the only way you're going to make it. Do you believe that's true?
Partially. Partially true. I think when you're early on in your career, there is so much for you to learn, so much for you to expose yourself to. Sometimes you tend to make it's easier for you to take calculated risks, or maybe sometimes uncalculated, but it's easier for you to do that because you're not weighed down with a lot of responsibility. And that's what helps you grow. And that's what helps you learn and expand and build the experience that you will eventually need as you progress in your career. So I agree to an extent with that. But then there's also other ways to get experience. So when you travel, when you meet different people, when you build your network, these are all other ways. And I think, alhamdulillah, one of the things that I can say worked for me was I was very conscious, and I got this advice very early on, of building a network. So yes, you work, but you maintain the relationships, and the relationships are really what matters as you move forward. Like yesterday in Fortune event, the people that I met with that are here in Saudi are people that I know for over 20 years, are people that I know for over 15 years. They're friends. We've seen each other in our low moments. We've seen each other in our high moments. We support each other. And it was just so heartwarming to see them again, because truly they mean a lot. And it's really investing in the network that helps you prosper as you go. Every job I got was not because I applied for it. It was because my network saw something, saw a potential, and recommended me to a position. So yeah, I agree that you put your head down and work, but also keep an eye on expanding and not losing yourself in the process.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the point of authentic networking. Because so oftentimes I see, even on LinkedIn and everything, people just do the exchanging business cards. Who are you? What do you do? And it's almost a transactional relationship. It doesn't feel human anymore. It feels as though, what can I get from you and what can you get from me? And it's so inhumane, I feel like, at times.
Yes. And, it's right now, as I've gone through a lot, and I'm much more clear on what I want to do and what I don't want to do. So I managed to create more time for myself to explore things that I'm truly and genuinely excited about. And I realized that, alhamdulillah, I have a huge network. But I, as you said, they're on my WhatsApp groups. I see them occasionally in the big events that we have in the country, but I don't really have a one-to-one conversation just to catch up, just to understand, where people are at. And so right now, this has become one of my objectives, is to reach out to people, say, hi, it's been a while. Let's just meet over coffee and, talk about life.
Yeah. I want to jump to human capability. So a part of discussions and what we do on this podcast is we want to be a source of information and advise the next generation and current generations that want to follow into the footsteps of our guests like yourself. So you have 20 years in experience in human capital development from government and private sectors. I have a two-part question for you. Is there anything that makes a CV stand out to you? And also, what do you look for in a person when hiring?
Ooh, I don't know if I want to tell you my secrets. Okay, so there is people on paper, and then there's people in real life. And we usually start with people on paper when it comes to CVs. And with a CV, it's more about how they tell the story of their life on that CV. Like, is it just graduation, and experience, or is there something more on that CV? Usually a why, like, why are you doing what you're doing? Like a statement of purpose or something that kind of catches your attention. Sometimes works, but you can say a little and a lot from paper. You really need to meet the person. Usually it's also the things that people do on the side that I'm very curious about. So I look to see if there are any interests, if there's any volunteering work, if there's any extra curricular activities on the CV. Usually that says a lot about the person. And I'm not going to give you like the typical answer of where they graduated from or what have you, because sometimes that doesn't, or many times that doesn't work. But then meeting someone and interviewing someone, I personally look at it as a conversation rather than an interview, because you want the person who's applying for a job to be very comfortable. So it's a conversation. You're not trying to intimidate the person, because the moment you intimidate someone, you don't get the honest answer. You want the honest answer. Yeah. So you have a conversation, and then you're looking for many things. You're looking obviously for the technical skills. Can they actually do the job from a technical point of view? But then you're also looking for the soft stuff. The stuff that really matter. So how can you ask questions and steer the conversation to know more about their value sets? I think values are number one. If their values are aligned with the organization, if the values are aligned with you, you also, as someone who's interviewing, you look at potential bias and try to counter that with more curiosity and more questions. Is this person does this person have enough self-awareness? Because if you're not aware, you're just doing the very mechanically doing the work. But if you're self-aware, you understand your why, you understand why you're doing this, it gives you more depth. It gives you it purpose will help you through the difficult times. It'll help you push through, and that's also a good way to predict resilience as well.
Okay, so we were just talking about what makes a person stand out in a physical interview, but I want to ask you, I mean, when I think of fresh graduates, when I think of people just entering the job market, they can't help but be nervous when they're approaching their first interview, especially, for example, if they're going to the financial district and they're seeing the large PIF towers and it's so intimidating. Do you have any advice for people that are just entering the job market, entering a job interview? How do they navigate it?
First of all, when you go into a job interview, you need to believe at your core that whatever God wants for you is the best. And if you can genuinely believe that, that takes away a big portion of the anxiety. The other thing is, if you do your homework and you prepare for this interview. So I cannot even tell you how many interviews I had with people where they don't even open the website and know what I'm applying for, what the job is and what it requires. So I would say do your homework. That would mean that you don't just check the website, you check the whole sector, what's happening in the sector, read about it. Today we have very smart tools like ChatGPT where you can actually put in the name of the company, understand the sector, understand the competition. If you're applying for a specific job, also know what this job entails. Try to find evidence of things that you have done in the past. And even if you're a fresh graduate, I'm sure you've experienced something in university or in life in general that can prove that you have this specific skill. And we look for evidence, not just talk. And we can sense when it's just fluff or it's actual evidence that is supported by something real. That's something. Also, understand why you want to apply. Why do you want to be part of this job? Is it just because you want a job? And that's not going to take you too far. But you're applying for this job because of what? So if someone asks you, that's something that you should know how to answer. Another thing is maybe do some mock interviews with your friends, or even with ChatGPT. I mean, it's just we're in a very interesting era right now with AI. So use it for your advantage, and go to the interview with confidence and not overconfident, because that's also not a good thing. But ask questions, have questions, prepare a set of questions that you want to ask. Because I tell you something, when you are being interviewed, you should also wear the hat of the interviewer, because you should be interviewing your boss as well.
Okay.
And is this a person that I would want to work with or not? And there was a study recently came out that 73% of Saudis leave their jobs because of their managers, not because of the company itself. So interviewing the manager is also something that I would, if you have you do it smartly, obviously, exactly. But just be curious about this person that you will be spending more than 8 hours a day with for quite a long time.
What do you think, or what do you recommend the interviewee should be asking? I know towards the job interviews I've had, horrendous job interviews, and I've had good ones where the HR I felt was playing mind games. I don't know if this was just me. Do you know when they leave you outside for an hour and a half and then you come in and it's almost like an interrogation? It's not even a get to know you. I've had those terrible sessions where it felt like I couldn't even ask a question.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're able to ask the HR, the hiring manager, a question. What do you recommend people ask?
Maybe ask about the rhythm of the work. Like, what's your, like, how do you do work here? How many times do you meet with the team? How many times do I see my manager? Do people give feedback regularly? Is it part of the system or not? How do you translate the values that people hang on walls into reality? Like, how do you actually exhibit trust in an organization? So these are some questions. If questioned in a smart way, can give you an indication of this organization.
Yeah. Let's jump to the topic of Shark Tank. For our audience members that don't know, we actually have a shark in front of us. You were part of Sharkette, excuse me. Sharkette. You were a Sharkette on Shark Tank Arabia.
Yes.
How was that experience for you?
That was the definition of going out of your comfort zone for me. I tend to be an introvert, and
really?
Yes, and I used to consider myself camera shy. I don't like to speak in public, and then when I got a call from my friend, she's like, "You should try this." I'm like, no. TV? Are you crazy? I didn't even do a 5-minute interview. But then I pushed myself, and it turned to be an inflection point in my life where I noticed that not only I can actually do it and do it well, but actually I noticed the impact it has. I've been working day and night to create impact for youth, for human capital, and send certain messages to the youth through programs. And then just 2 weeks of recording in a studio, and your message is received not just in Saudi but all over the Arab world. And I saw the power of that and the power of media, and I just got hooked after that. It gave me an amazing platform to actually share my thoughts. And
Yeah, but media is an equalizer. This is what I love about it. I know so many people are against social media, against TV, but it's an equalizer. It gives opportunity to people and makes information more accessible.
Definitely.
I do have a question. I don't know if this is okay to ask, but I remember growing up, I used to watch Shark Tank in the US with my mom, because my mom, she has a very entrepreneurial mindset, and I learned that from her from a very young age watching her. I was raised by a workaholic. I'm a workaholic, so it's kind of in the DNA. But we used to watch it all the time. I want to know, are the sharks actually investing in these companies, or is it kind of all organized?
That's a very good question, and that's it's the most frequent question we get. So the way the show is designed is that you, as a shark, you don't get to meet the entrepreneurs off camera before. Mm-hmm. So the first time I see an entrepreneur is actually on camera, and usually we spend almost an hour or more with every entrepreneur, and what you see on camera is like 5 minutes. So we do ask a lot of questions, and we genuinely are interested in investing. But because you only have that limited amount of time, a lot of the real discussions and real negotiations happen after the show. So once you commit to an initial investment, and usually it's more about a meet and greet. Like on Shark Tank, it's like we're meeting the entrepreneur for the first time, they're meeting us for the first time, and it's like an MOU potentially of let's have another conversation, because you don't get to see the numbers, you don't get to validate them. There's nothing that we can do on the show that can actually guarantee that we have enough information. So what we do after the show is what really matters. And there are some investments where I actually did invest. But for me, I think, and I probably speaking for the rest of the sharks as well, the timing of the show was very early in.
It was 2017 or
It was 2017, yes. It was very early in the maturity of the entrepreneurial scene in general in Saudi. So we're still growing this ecosystem. We're still putting the different pieces together. The idea of entrepreneurship wasn't very clear in people's minds. So the pipeline was still amateur. And I think for me, it was a fun experience. I learned so much about myself, about others, and I consider it probably one of the best educational shows. It wasn't, for me, it wasn't an investment opportunity funnel. It was more of an educational show. And I think we did manage to succeed very well in that. It was one of the top shows, if not the number one show viewed on Rotana. And, even when you walk in the street and people stop you, they're saying, we learned a lot from the questions. We learned a lot from the talk with the entrepreneurs. We now know what investors are looking for. We bring our kids to watch the show. And I think for me, having this educational background and helping people reach their full potential, it ticked off so many boxes. Not the investment box though. But
it's okay.
Yeah.
What I really admire about you is even early on in your career, you still had that educational mindset where you wanted to give back. You wanted to give back information. And even, 20 plus years later, as an investor, you're still doing it. You're still, advocating for educating the next generation.
Yes. And actually, when I invest, I don't think I have ever invested in a founder that I didn't like, even if the business was good. Some people might think that's, this is my thesis in terms of investment. And the reason why I do that is because, you're putting your money into someone else's hands. So you're actually convinced that this person can take it somewhere and can create value, not just financial returns. And I tend to be, in many cases, very much involved with the founder. So I have mentoring sessions with them. They call me whenever they want to think outside the box or have a fresh eye. So I always have different conversations with the founders of companies that I have invested in. And I truly, genuinely enjoy it. Yeah.
You mentioned that you invest in people that you like. This is one aspect, but what do you look for when an investor pitches their startup? What makes them stand out to you?
So, again, I look for people who do their homework, whether it's you're interviewing for a job or you're pitching for a business. For investment, you need to do your homework. So doing your homework in this context means you understand your numbers, you understand your sector, you understand your company. If you have a partner, you know this partner very well, you know how you complement each other, you understand the future of this sector and how it's going to continue to grow. So you really need to know your company and your business, and then also having some self-awareness goes a very, very long way. So I tend to ask these questions, and people are looking, why are you asking this question in an investment pitch?
Like a personal question?
Yes, like personal questions. What gets you up at night thinking? What worries you? How do you choose your team? Some questions lead to the values that they hold dear to themselves.
I like that. Because I kind of subconsciously did it. I didn't even notice I was doing it when I started Discussions. So Discussions is a small media company, but when I started it, I worked in media for 6 years now, and I genuinely picked the people that I liked. It was so unconscious because you get along with them. You see how driven they are. You see how passionate they are about their work, and you just accidentally do it.
So just to clarify, so like when you like someone, whether it's for a job or it's you're investing in someone's business, uh, it's not if you get along with them. I think it's more about you like their ethos,
Mm-mm.
and I think that's what matters, because I know that I'm someone who is, I'm a strategist. I can tend to have some introvertedness in me, that I'm not, out there. I don't like operations a lot. And if I'm just going to choose people who are like me and are resembling myself, then I'm either hiring people that are not going to do, like, the company's nobody's going to actually do the work. And that's something that you need to make sure that the HR is very aware of, that they don't hire people that you like. But I think we're getting off track.
No, they share similar values.
Yeah.
It's about values.
Yeah, it's about values, and it's about you like them for the job that they need to do.
Exactly, and they're qualified. It's not
Yes.
like I'm going to
Yes,
pick you
yes,
out
yes.
whilst the situation.
Yes,
It's
yes,
like
yes,
you're qualified for
yes.
the situation.
Yes.
Honestly, we spoke about this in the beginning. You wear so many hats in your career, over the span of your career. How do you manage that time while also, the demanding career, while also maintaining your own self and who you are? It's a bit of a personal question, I know.
So if you're asking if I have a blueprint, I don't. I don't have a blueprint, but I have a few things that I hold very dear to myself. So I'm in love with questions. So I ask a lot of questions, and usually these questions take me places. So if you're asking a very specific question, sometimes you don't get the answer right away, but Allah prepares you until the answer comes.
Yeah.
And that has taken me in my career many places. And also, I try as much as possible to protect my energy. I'm always living on the edge of my comfort zone. Sometimes I get out of it, sometimes I go into it, but I'm always on the edge, just to keep myself, alive and curious. And I've said yes to things and to opportunities when I was extremely afraid and not really confident that I can actually do it. But I know that I'm confident in my skills of learning and growing. So I've done things, and now I'm looking and like, why did I even say yes to that? But yes, saying yes to opportunities is very important in your career.
So you really emphasize the point of saying yes. And I imagine you've tried a lot of things in your career. How did you discover what you truly wanted to do?
Yeah, and I think I was one of maybe the lucky ones to know what I wanted to do from a very young age. But there's a difference between your why and knowing what you want to do, and then how you get there. And I think the how was very experimental for me. I went through I tried different sectors, different industries. I worked in private sector. I worked in academia. I worked in nonprofit. I worked in government. So I went through, the whole tour. And every single experience adds to the other, and then you retrospectively connect the dots, but it all makes sense at the end, and every experience enriches the other one that's coming. So sometimes you need to create a big shift. Like I was all for education, and I was working in academia. Then suddenly I was working in the Saudi Arabian General Investment Authority. And people who knew me back then, they were like, "What? Why are you working in an investment agency?" And that added so much depth.
Mhm.
I still was focused on human capital, but I learned so much about business. And it's really the ability to speak different languages, not languages as in country languages, but languages of work and of business, is what helps you get even better opportunities and grow. So when you see things from the private sector perspective, and then you go and work in government and you see the back end of it, and you're like, okay, now I get it. Now I know why these policies are coming out, and it makes perfect sense. But if you were stuck in private sector, you would be curious about why are they doing this policy, and so it's very cool.
No, you got it. Quite literally, you took the whole tour and you tried everything,
Yeah.
but it builds character, it builds your knowledge and who you are. But can I ask you, what's next for you?
What's next? I think one thing that I haven't really gotten into, and I think, in addition to Rumman, and I think well-being is uh, in the workplace is still starting. People are still thinking of it as an afterthought, or as something you do when you have the time. So for me, that's one of the major things, is to really push for policy in the space of well-being in the workplace, at home, and schools. And well-being touches everything. It touches tourism, it touches sports, it touches business, it touches family, it touches healthcare, it touches education. So it's very broad, and I think we're still at the very beginning of it. Really creating a well-being economy that is actually contributing to the GDP. Finally, people taking it seriously, and really understanding that it is the infrastructure of prosperity in a country. I think that's one big hairy monster that I'm starting to tackle. I think the other thing is maybe pursuing more of my art.
Okay, you're an
So
artist.
yeah, so I do two things that I enjoy: mixed media, and I am in love with pottery. So I work on the wheel. I throw on the wheel, and
So cool.
it's extremely therapeutic. And subhanallah, إحنا, we are originally from clay, so there is this synergy, harmony, something that you get out of this experience that is very spiritual. It's not just art. And I want to pursue that more.
That's beautiful. Back to the investment and the entrepreneurship side. Like I said, discussions, my intention is for it to be educational. I want to pick the brain of an investor. If someone is, a Saudi, they're starting out, they want to get into the world of business. Do you see any gaps in the markets or any areas where there's a potential for a startup to succeed in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, of course, there's a lot to be done. I mean, we're literally creating sectors and building sectors from scratch in Saudi, whether it's tourism or sports or culture, or even healthcare. Adding this layer of disruptive technology and AI is creating even more opportunities. So I don't think it's about the gap in the market, because there are many gaps in the market. I think it's really more about where you see yourself adding value, and which problem are you passionate to solve. I think that's what really kind of helps you navigate through this. It's really about what you are interested in solving. There are so many problems,
Exactly.
and it's what you choose for yourself.
But I like the idea of what you said about problem solving, not just creating a startup to create a startup. I've seen so many AI tech startups.
Oh my
They're
God.
just, they throw in the word AI and startup and
and I don't know if
You should say, I have so much to say on the topic, and I can't say either.
I don't know if I should say this, but entrepreneurship sometimes sounds sexy, and it's not.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. It's horrifying at some stages, and it can do so much damage to your well-being, actually. So you need to be up for it. You need to be extremely passionate. You need to really, really genuinely want to solve a problem and add value. It's not about the money. It's not about the VCs that are attracted to your business. It's really about solving a problem or adding value. And you need to have conviction. You need to have clarity about your business. You need to be humble and, a lot of humility, a lot of resilience. That's investable. But other than that, it's may sound cool.
It's not attractive. It's exhausting.
It may sound cool, but it's a very difficult journey.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like the title of CEO and founder and startup tech, but they don't realize you're the accountant, you're the marketing team, you're the hiring manager. You're not getting a salary for a long time.
Yeah, and you are held accountable for the lives of the people that work for you.
Very true.
Or that work with you, and that's a big responsibility to bear. And you need to do it with humility. You need to do it with empathy. You need to do it with care and with genuine intentions that you really want to not just build this company and create this company, but support the people who are working with you, their families. It's a big responsibility, and you need to be up for it.
And you need to be on the ground running with them. Like this is the point where I see it. I mean, when people see the discussions, they see it clean cut, but they don't see us carrying camera equipment outside with the videographers. And I mean, yes, you're the founder, you're the host of it, but you're also on the ground, carrying that equipment, you're doing in the work, because like you said, they rely on you. You should be a team supporting each other.
Yes. And what's, the sound bites and the PR hoopla, and then when the headlines, that's just 1 second in a lifetime. And that's nothing compared to what's happening behind the scenes. I went through hell and back in my life so many times, over and over and over. And now I'm more comfortable with ambiguity. I'm more comfortable with uncertainty. But you need to keep doing that. And I always say, when you decide, I don't know why I'm like, I think it's in tangent, but
no, but this is good. It's like a therapy session for me. I love it.
With so much experience and so many lessons, the lessons keep showing up until you actually learn them for real. And they come in different ways, in different people. You learn them, and if you don't learn it the first time, it comes again and it comes again. And sometimes you learn part of it, but there's a corner there that you haven't tapped yet. So another lesson comes with the same mushkila, but it's just another exterior. Until you finally learn it. And for me, I was one of my enemies was uncertainty and ambiguity, and I always wanted to get clarity. I want to know. I want things to be very clear. And now after a lot of experience, I made friends finally with uncertainty, with ambiguity. And I think the more you get closer to this kind of relationship, a healthy relationship with uncertainty and ambiguity, the more you heal from perfectionism, and the more you stand away from perfectionism. Because why are you afraid of the future? Because you want it to be perfect. So the farther you are from perfectionism, and if you even intentionally give yourself time to grieve the perfect you and accept the you that you are now, you become more comfortable with uncertainty. So you do have your very clear why up there, and you know why you're doing what you're doing, but then it all goes down to the 24 hours. And I'm falling in love with this concept, because if you can just manage your 24 hours over and over and over and over, it's very comforting. And I sit and I say, okay, today you are safe. Today you have food on the table. Today you have people that love you. Today you are healthy. Today you worked out. Today you drank really good coffee. Today you had a beautiful conversation with someone you love. Today you were productive. You did at least 3 hours of productive time, productive work. Today you have a comfortable bed to sleep. That's your 24 hours. And if you repeat it over and over and over again, you'll have a good life.
SubhanAllah, I feel like this is a therapy session. I know this is, I was saying before, because when I was researching you, I was like, I can learn so much. It's like an advisory session. I mean, you're saying this, and meanwhile, this is basically what happened my morning. I think the videographer will attest to this. I have trouble with letting go. I'm a perfectionist. I need to be in control of everything. But it's all, like you said, qadr. It's all written. It's going to happen. And my videographer is always telling me, Lama, if the interview is meant to happen, it's going to happen. Yeah. You can't control everything. And I'm panicking, talking to protocol and talking to security and trying to do everything I possibly can. And it's killing me. It's killing me, like, over time.
Yeah.
But learning to just say, alhamdulillah, I did what I can. I'm going to let go. I think you saying it's a reoccurring lesson. I'm seeing it presenting itself constantly, and I'm still not learning.
Yeah.
I still want to control everything.
Yeah.
Because I think over time, was there like an aha moment for you that made you learn, okay, I can let go. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
I think there's so much more for me to learn. So I'm not gonna sit here and claim that I've done it. I'm not perfect.
No one is. No one is.
But there were several aha moments, and then there were other moments that I didn't have the aha, and that's the problem. So it happens in very small things until you don't learn the lesson. So the lesson comes in a stronger way, and until you actually finally get the slap on the face, and then you wake up. So it was many years of in training. I'd like to say that I'm a recovering perfectionist. I do see some streaks of it still, but sometimes you need to do your best. But there's a fine line between that and damaging your mental well-being because of perfectionism.
Exactly. I think it's going to take time. I'm still in my early 20s. No, I'm in mid-20s, so hopefully it'll take time. My videographer's laughing. He knows me. We worked together 6 years. You know how. I'm trying. Okay, this is an interesting question. So you said you're an introvert. I was very surprised by that. What advice do you have for people that are introverted and maybe still shy, and they have aspirations, they have dreams, they have careers they want to chase, but they're so intimidated and they're not there yet as introverts?
So I learned this term, extroverted introvert.
Mm-hmm.
And I am an extroverted introvert, meaning I'm an extrovert when I want to be, and for a very limited time. But in general, many of the best leaders in the world are introverts.
Really?
And introvertedness versus extrovertedness, there's no one better than the other. It's just a way that you engage with life. Introverts are people who recharge alone. Extroverts are people who charge with others, charge their energy, I mean. So as an introvert, I think in the beginning of my career, I considered it a barrier. So I would be shy. If you put me in a room of a lot of people, I would be the one who's drinking water on a table alone, because I wouldn't want to approach anyone. I didn't know how to approach. I didn't like small talk. So so I would be the one who's like sitting there alone and waiting desperately for someone to come and say hi. Then I learned, okay, I need to tag along with an extrovert. And then they do the introduction, and then I seep into the conversation seamlessly, alhamdulillah, and things get better. So that was that was one way of doing it. Another way is just do what you're afraid of. You just jump in. Every time someone asks me to speak, maybe less so now, alhamdulillah, but in the very early stages of my career, they would want me to speak at a conference, or I worked a lot with universities, so I would speak with students, or speak with high level officials. It was very, very scary, and I would remember my heart beating, but I knew that it would get better. So at first they would say, "Can you do this?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to do this." But then I'm like, "No, do this." So
push yourself.
Yeah. So you push yourself. And then there's also a trick that I used, and it worked like a charm. I would say, "You are gonna give the worst speech in your life."
Like reverse psychology.
Yes, you're gonna give the worst speech in your life.
Okay.
And khalas, you should be fine with it. It kind of eases the anxiety. It lowers the expectations, so your brain can relax, and then you end up doing amazing. Hatta in meetings, I know that not everybody gets the opportunity to speak in public, but even in meetings, when the chairman is sitting, or not even the chairman, your boss is in the table, and there's plenty of people in the room, and especially for women, when sometimes you're the only woman in the room. I would sometimes start the meeting in my mind saying, "I'm not going to engage. You're not going to ask any questions. We're going to stay quiet, and that's okay." And then suddenly the question comes, and then you ask the question, because if you're tense all the time, you tend to miss out on really good experiences. And I think there's no stupid question, especially in meetings. There's no stupid question. So if you ask a question and someone responds as if you asked a stupid question, that's fine. Just listen to the answer. And because if you didn't know it, then now you do, because now you're getting the answer. And I think these are certain things that you do to get out of the introvertedness, but not fighting it, because it is a part of you, and it's who you are. It's how you leverage it. So you create spaces where you feel comfortable talking. You learn a little bit of the skills of small talk and engaging with people. Sometimes taking someone aside and having a one-to-one conversation is less intimidating in the beginning, so that's also helpful.
I think it takes time. And then I like that you said there's no stupid questions, because even in the meeting or boardroom, I guarantee you someone else is thinking that exact same question, but they're too intimidated to ask.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
We're wrapping up the interview. We're getting to our last few questions. This is interesting. What was the best investment you've ever made throughout your career, whether it's financial in a business or even within yourself, or decisions you've made?
So alhamdulillah, I when it comes to actual investments, there are really good investments that had really good returns. There were very lousy investments, and there were very expensive lessons, if you will, which is also fine. You learn. This is how you learn. But genuinely, I think the biggest investment is the investment I had in myself. One day I sat down and I was like, write down your top 3 or 5 things that you will never feel guilty paying money for or investing in. Number one for me was books.
Mhm.
And I'm always proud about the bookshelves I have back home filled with books. And there's a book for every time. So it's really about knowledge and reading and continuously reading and educating myself. Obviously, now it's not just books. There are so many other ways to learn, but learning is a consistent thread throughout my life, and investing time to learn about myself. So when I was girl, when I was younger,
Sure.
uh,
You're so young. We were saying that before we started filming. I was like, she's so young. And
when I was younger, I there was no psychometric test that I did not take.
Really?
Like I'm a psychometric test junkie. So I did all the tests that come my way, and I invested the time to learn about myself. But then when life happens and things, get more complicated and more complex, I did invest a lot in a support system that helped me. For example, I have someone that I trust as a therapist that I go to speak about issues that I can't figure out myself, or sometimes I just want to feel that I'm seen and heard and appreciated for the challenges that I'm going through, and have someone, just help me manage these emotions. I have plenty of mentors, alhamdulillah, that have supported me throughout my career, and I invest time and attention to make sure that I maintain this relationship and they're with me all the time. Also, we invest in the network, as I said before. They say your network is your net worth, and investing in those relationships are very important, and especially, it's for everyone, but especially for women. It's very important to invest in a relationship where you have a champion, someone who opens the doors for you, someone who advocates for you, who is your voice in rooms where you still don't have access to. And I think that for me was very important. Yeah.
So I just have a few more questions. So from a parent or a leader's perspective, how can you support entrepreneurship when you see it in a child or a sibling that's younger?
I think I'm speaking on about my experience as a child. My parents gave me the space to explore. I know my mom, scheduled me in so many programs, summer camps. They would take me to different places where I find interest. I know that pottery was something that I enjoyed at a very early age. So it's really offering the opportunity to explore, giving the blessing to make mistakes is also very important. Trying to curb your need or your urge to push a child to be perfect. I think, as parents, they want their kids to be perfect, but you need to just curb that need to be perfect, because then you're giving more room for them to explore. And I think financial literacy is also very important at a very young age. I know my mom used to give me my allowance for the summer, and خلاص, you're on your own. طبعا they take care of the food and the ultra expensive stuff. But I had my allowance, and this is what I would this is the money that I would use to buy all my crazy stuff that didn't make sense for my parents. The ice cream, the bubble gum, all came out of that allowance at a very young age. And it continued to be that way until I grew up. I knew how to budget for myself.
Yeah. So there's two more questions. I'll try to squeeze in two more. Is there an exercise from Rumman or from your expertise that people can do at home? Maybe say they're in the office, in their houses, they're feeling overwhelmed. they're nearing burnout, is there something that they can do independently to just regulate that, immune system?
Yes. So you need to drink water.
Mhm.
These are very simple, basic things, but believe it or not, we forget to drink water
Yes.
in Riyadh. Believe
Me
it.
too.
So drink water, drink enough water, stand up frequently, and then when you feel anxious, set like a few minutes of breathing. And my advice is inhale and then prolong the exhale. Because when you prolong the exhale, you're sending messages to your brain that you are in a safe environment, that you have the luxury to prolong the exhale. And then your brain calms down. So that short circuits anxiety. Build beautiful connections with people that you're working with. At least one person where you can feel like you have your back is covered with this person. You can have an honest conversation, and connection and relationships goes a very long way. By research, it's the number one antidepressant in the world, having a human connection. So if you build those very strong, deep connections with at least one person at work, you're better off than not having any relationships that are authentic.
Yeah, it's beautifully said. Last question, I promise. The videographer's looking at me. I promise. Last question.
And I'm enjoying this. I can stay here for
I am
another
as
hour.
well. I was just saying, it feels like a therapy session for me because I look to you and you're speaking about so many topics, and I can't help but smile because I'm like, that's me. She's looking at me. She's reading me. She's just, it's very natural. SubhanAllah. With discussions, I created it mainly because I was meeting so many remarkable people in my work as a journalist, people that I felt like have diverse experiences that we can learn from. But I mainly write, and writing, no one reads the newspaper as much anymore, unfortunately. So I thought, let's bring these individuals, let's film an episode, and let's give them advice. So there's one reoccurring question I ask all my guests on discussions. If there's one piece of advice you can give someone aspiring to follow in your footsteps, aspiring to follow in your career, what would that be?
I don't want this to sound like a cliche, but fall in love with yourself. Really get curious about yourself. Invest in yourself. Really know everything. The good, the bad, the ugly. Accept that you have shadow self. Accept that you are not perfect. Accept that there are lots of dark corners in yourself, and switch on the light and get curious, and don't be afraid of that. Just be curious about yourself. And if you need help, professional help, to help you just unravel all of this, get it. It's I'm really advocating to destigmatize getting therapy and getting someone to help you with this. So just go and discover yourself. It's a beautiful, non-ending journey. And the more you do that, the more you're present in life, the more your impact is more genuine and authentic.
That's beautiful. I think that's the perfect way to end the episode. Maha, thank you so much for your advice. We talked about work-life balance. We talked about wellness in the workplace, and not just wellness when we think of going on a 5 a.m. run, but physically implementing wellness throughout aspects of your career. Unconsciously, this was a therapy session for me because of perfection.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it, and I have I'm so proud of you and proud of the work that you're doing, and I can't wait to see where you're going, because you're gonna go places, Beryl. I know that. I can see it.
This is just the beginning. Inshallah, I just need to find the perfectionist balance.
And inshallah, it'll come with time. But be patient with yourself, and you're on the right track.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. This has been Discussions. I look forward to seeing you on our next episode.